What do you think the sentiment is of your district? There are national polls. The one that I've read the most about is the Washington Post, and they were partnered with somebody else on it that says that no fewer than 50% of the country opposes the bill as passed. What do you believe the sentiment of your district is relative to the bill?
If you talk about the bill as the bill, I think that it's, I don't know, probably 45% in favor, 55% opposed as the bill. But when you break it down into the component pieces of the bill, then it's at least 60% in favor, 40% opposed, but usually higher on the aspects of closing the donut hole for seniors. That's popular. On covering kids who are out of college until they're 26, that's very popular. Pre-existing conditions for your children getting covered, that's very popular. So it's an interesting dynamic. When you talk about the substance of the bill itself, it's popular. By wide margins popular. But when you talk about the bill that's been packaged in people's minds, you know, the way it's been sold and the way it's been argued and demagogued, and then that way it's not popular. So,
but we don't get to pick and choose the amendments that we'll follow and those we won't.
No, that's true. But I think that there has been a lot of sort of misunderstanding of the bill. I mean, we've gone through a year that is unlike many in a long time. But what we see now, people coming to our offices and the calls we're getting throughout the district offices and the D.C. offices, is this good? I mean, is this going to help us? You know, how can I benefit from this? And when we start talking to families and the small business people, they're kind of taken aback a little bit and think, well, this is good for us. So as the bill is better understood in terms of getting past the sort of the emotive part of what the bill has done and actually looking at the substance of the bill, I think the polls that we see in terms of the individual aspects are probably well-founded.
If I walk into your office as a small business person, which we are, 200 employees, and say, I'm really worried about the impact of this bill on our health care costs. We pay between $750,000 and $1 million a year on health care.
And what's it going to be next?
Is this going to lower my costs for my company? What do you tell them? And I've got to get back and run my business,
sure.
So I can't read 2,600 pages.
Right.
What are you going to tell them?
I'm going to say yes, it will. You can go into the exchange where the costs should be lower when the exchange is set up. But what it also does is begin to cover people that couldn't be covered. So there will be family members. Maybe you have a child with a pre-existing condition. Maybe any of you, maybe you know people that do, that they will be covered by the end of the year or as it is in, they'll begin to be covered. So not only do you get coverage of more people at basically a lower cost because you're expanding the risk pool when you create these exchanges, but you're creating a situation where your employees feel more at ease, more content about what's going to happen to their family members, and and that's an important aspect that I think gets lost to a large degree.
What ultimately influenced your decision on healthcare? Was there a point where you were getting so much feedback?
Mark, I'm a cancer survivor.
That you just tuned
I'm a
it out?
cancer survivor, and I couldn't look myself in the mirror in the morning and think that I didn't do what I could to help people, other fathers of 5 who may not have the opportunity to get insurance or would have sort of a pre-existing condition that precluded them from getting it. So to me, that was that personal experience and hearing stories from constituents around our district about similar situations. To me, it was a vote of conscience.
There were reports that some congressional members stopped accepting calls at a certain point. It was just overwhelming to keep up with the volume. Did you find that to be the case?
Yes. And it was remarkable. Most of the calls, 80%, 75 to 80% of the calls, were not even from Pennsylvania, never mind the district. They were coming from mostly Texas and Idaho and Oregon and California and Utah, but they weren't necessarily from the district. About 25% were from the district, and of those that came from the district, it was running slightly in favor of some kind of reform versus opposed to it. But yeah, I mean it was tough. Every time the phone rang, you pick it up. You know, I would in my office, which is not a, you know, I'm on the same exchange. If I need to make a phone call, I pick up the call, and there'd be somebody on the line. I mean, you know, hello. So it was even tough for me to make calls out from my office.
What aspects of this law do you think need to be tweaked in the short term, if any, or is there companion legislation that you think is a priority that we need to follow?
Yeah, the one thing I really want to see done is the ability to sell insurance across state lines. But that's going to require some fixes in terms of making sure we don't incorporate these businesses in states that allow for the lowest common denominator. You know, for the same reasons that credit card companies go to Delaware or South Dakota, you know, we need to make sure that we don't do that. So I think it makes a lot of sense to have insurance sold across state lines to make it more competitive in terms of pricing. I think that makes great sense. But we've got to make sure, if we're going to do that, that we have a minimum level of coverage no matter where you are, no matter what state this company is incorporated in, you know, so that happens. So I think that's actually legislatively doable. And, you know, I've talked to a number of my Republican colleagues about you know, moving forward in that way. And frankly, there's a lot of my Democratic colleagues who think that makes a lot of sense too. It's just, you know, making sure that we don't have a race to the bottom in terms of coverage and that sort of thing. It's making sure that we have a level playing field. And look, there's a lot of room actually for improving prices of insurance. When you look at, you know, somewhere between 30 and 40 cents of every dollar you spend in tax care, of that $1 million you spend every year, is going toward their administrative cost. I bet your administrative costs aren't 40%. So, you know, there is room to bring prices down even more. So.